Hi, and welcome to the Kale Houser Leadership Secrets podcast. Today, I want to talk about the importance of high morale in your organization. Hello, everybody, and welcome back to the Kale Houser Leadership Secrets podcast. I'm Kale Houser. Thank you so much for joining me today. I wanted to continue our discussion about morale because I think it is extremely critical to your organization, both to recognize the positive and negative aspects of it. But today I want to focus on the positive side. We did a fairly extensive podcast coverage, I think 4 episodes in total, starting with 116 a little bit ago, about the importance of morale and how critical it is to your organization. And then we went into a 3-part series about things that we as leaders do to kill morale in our workplace, and then the results of that and what our workplace ultimately looks like once we've killed that morale. So today I want to focus on, instead of being such a downer with how we screw up as leaders and things we do to, whether purposely or inadvertently, kill the morale in our organization, I wanted to focus on things that we can do very practically to make sure the morale in our workplace is high and functioning and everyone is kind of on the same page. So just as a quick recap of morale, is because I was thinking about this, and again, being my military background, this is something that we talked about a lot, or at least informally talked about a lot. We were aware of, it was in a lot of trainings of, how important morale is and all these kind of different things. But I understand that's probably not the case in most businesses, small businesses, especially if you're a business owner that you had this great idea, you opened a shop and you started to become successful, and now you're dealing with these teams and you don't understand what's going on and you don't understand why things aren't working out and why everyone's not friends, right? You've got such a great business and things are happening, people are making money, but things are still going wrong and you don't understand why, right? And maybe you've heard morale, in passing on a movie or something in the past, or read it in a book, but you don't quite grasp the overall concept and why it is important as a business owner to understand this concept of morale. And I want to make sure, don't confuse this with morality. That's an entirely different concept. Certainly they share the same base word, but morality is different than morale in our sense that we're talking about in the business world, and how you relate to your teammates and your coworkers and your boss and your employees, whatever the case may be for your situation. So we want to talk about getting morale from presumably, whether it even be like in the complete dumps level, right? Like really bad morale. People legitimately hate coming to work there, and the only reason that they do it is because they need a paycheck and they need to eat and pay their rent and all those things. But we want to take it, whether it be from that level, which is arguably kind of the worst. People maybe aren't quite the level of stealing from your company or actively trying to sabotage it, but they're certainly not invested in its future, nor do they see themselves as part of the future of your company. So we want to bring that up. Because again, as I had mentioned in episode 116 about how critical morale is when people are actually part of your culture. They've bought into that culture. They believe in the mission of your company. They believe in their role within that company, right? They understand that they are a contributing member and a valuable contributing member, and therefore they feel part of the family, for lack of a better term. And you may not be trying to create a culture that's family-like. Maybe you're too large for that, but you can certainly create a culture of mutually beneficial contribution to where your employees at every level, whether they be an entry-level position, a data analyst that's just in charge of banging out numbers all day long, or a senior account manager, or senior salesman that have been with you for several years. It's important that at every level they understand and they feel a part of the company, okay, not just an employee. And that ultimately is what morale is, and what the difference between high morale and low morale. So low morale, on the opposite end, would be somebody that just, I'm here for a paycheck, I'm going to do the bare minimum to, not get fired, certainly, but also maybe just the bare minimum to show myself worthy for a promotion, or to stick around, or if we have to lay a couple people off, maybe show the bare minimum to just not get fired. But again, let's focus on high morale, because it's important to realize unlike killing morale, high morale doesn't just happen. It may temporarily happen because you could have a couple personalities in your organization, and that may be your personality as the owner, as the main leader, that kind of builds everyone up around you. You're a positive person. You understand the importance of complimenting people. You understand the importance of making sure people feel understood and listened to and all those good positive things, and you just do that naturally because that's your personality type. And I'm not necessarily talking to those types of personalities because that's not everyone, and legitimately that's a very small percentage of the population, and certainly a small percentage of people in leadership positions. I'm talking to the people that it may not come naturally to you to be engaged with your employees, to make sure they feel a part of the team, to make sure they feel valued and wanted in your organization. And I want to talk about and help you understand that this doesn't just happen, okay? Even if you are that personality type that really drives relationships and really believes in building people up and things of that nature, it doesn't just happen on accident. You really have to be purposeful about that. And this could be anything from purposeful in how you plan events, right? Maybe it's employee recognition, or a company barbecue. Again, depending on how big your company is and your budgets and for these types of things, or just the structure of your organization may or may not allow for these different events. But how you think about that and being purposeful of what you want to happen because of that event, okay? So you can't just be like, hey, I'm gonna have a barbecue and cool, everyone comes over. You need to be a little more purposeful about what's the intention of the barbecue. Like, why are you throwing a barbecue in the first place? Because you got to understand, if you already have a bad morale or a bad culture in your company, they're not going to see that. Your employees are not going to see that as a reward. They're going to see that as, oh, great, I already work 40 hours a week for this schmuck over here, right? And now I've got to show up on my weekend to a barbecue, or maybe after my shift, on a Saturday evening, when there's 300 other things I would legitimately rather be doing than hanging out with my coworkers, right? Because I hate them, or I really don't like them, or I don't want my wife or my family or my husband to have anything to do with them. I just want to leave work at work because I honestly don't care about work. I'm happy I get a paycheck, but that's about it. So you really kind of have to gauge that, and that there are levels to this, especially if you're building a process to go from very low morale to bring it up. You can't, you can't jump several steps. You can't go from, your employees really don't like you to, hey, everybody come over to my house for a barbecue and it'll be a blast, right? And expecting it to be this big joyous occasion and everyone to show up, because that's just not how it works. You need to be incremental in how you approach this, okay? So first thing is to kind of recognize and analyze and assess where you're at on that level as a company. What is your company's culture? What is your business identity? And how your employees relate to that. Okay, are they bought into it? Are they kind of just so? Are they like, yeah, I enjoy the mission of our company, but it's definitely not a long-term solution for me, or this is entry level, or there's no future for me in this company, so I'm just kind of doing it to gain experience until I start applying to other companies that are bigger or better, or whatever the case may be. So recognize where your starting base is for that, and then go from there. So if it is just really poor morale, maybe start with just that small recognition of employees. Maybe institute a recognition program of some sort beyond just financial. Okay, but if that is important, like if you're in a very sales heavy organization, financial is certainly a large driving aspect of a sales type of a job, right? That's kind of how you measure success in your organization. Number of units sold, overall profit margin, things of that nature. And you can do things that will further recognize people beyond just like, hey, here's an extra couple $100 because you were you sold the most cars or the most, pizzas this month. And going beyond that and recognizing beyond people's mere financial contributions, but also other ways that people contribute to your organization, to your company. And that could be, hey, you got X amount of new clients, or you're number one in satisfaction rating with the surveys that you send out. And again, if you're not sending out surveys to your clients, you need to be, so you can help gauge how your employees are interacting and how the overall feel of your company is in the marketplace. But the feedback from those things to be able to better recognize your employees based on their performance and their interactions with the public at large, if you're dealing with the public at large as part of your revenue base. Okay, so that would be kind of an incremental step. And we're going to go through a couple different ways, I think about 10 or so, to specific things that you as the leader of your organization, and again, whether you are, a small business owner and it's just you running everything, you're the accountant and the HR person and the benefits person and the, spare line cook, or you're part of a larger organization where you're a department head and you're running a smaller group of people within a larger organization. You certainly are responsible for your people there as well. So, and it's, this is more general guidelines, and you need to figure out how it fits into your organization. And I'm not saying like, hey, create your own incentive system within your larger organization without getting the approval of your HR and things, right? Certainly go through your process as needed for your particular situation. But if your company does not have something in place that purposely recognizes people, and I'm doing this as kind of the baseline of recognition, you need to really start brainstorming and thinking about how you can get something in place to do that. Because really, recognition is the basic. We learned this in grade school. What do we say? Please and thank you. This is the thank you part of that, okay? Hey, just like getting the attendance award in grade school, like, man, thank you so much for showing up on time. This, for the last 3 months or whatever, right? Or you really helped out by coming in and covering, because Sally was out sick last week, blah, blah, blah. That recognition of especially extra effort is huge towards people. And it certainly may not be overt in their response to that recognition, because most people are fairly modest in their response to recognition. There are always certainly exceptions to this rule. Some people really that really jazzes them up and they really respond positively, but most people are reserved in that. But it goes a long way. And don't just because you're not seeing that immediate like, oh, thank you so much, I can't believe someone finally recognized me kind of thing. Trust that most people on average really take that to heart, and it does something inside of them, and they want to reciprocate in kind, especially when they're recognized for stuff. And as it happens more often, they understand and that starts bringing them into your culture, and they start understanding their place in it. They start understanding their value in it, because they're seeing that you see them, right? So we're going to go into this whole kind of, you see them and they see that you see them. So this whole process, right? And it's just kind of human psychology of how we interact with each other and why we continue to interact with each other, right? And recognition is kind of that baseline of what we want to talk about. So we are going to go into some follow-ons with some more practical ways you as a business owner, as a leader in your organization, can start raising that morale incrementally up to, which is kind of the ideal of, when you invite people over to a barbecue, they're stoked to come over. And not just because you work with a bunch of your high school buddies, or high school girlfriends, but because they're generally a part of this overall culture and they love being it. They bring their kids and, maybe your kids play together, all that kind of thing. Again, depending on how big your organization is and what's appropriate for your company or not. We want to get to that point where people feel comfortable, bringing you their problems and coming to you for advice and help. All right, so I hope that makes sense. I hope this will be beneficial for you. I'm pretty excited about it, actually, to kind of start focusing on some positive things. I know a lot of my podcast has come out of some fairly negative experiences that I've had, and I will say we'll talk some stories about some really positive experiences that I had coming up through the Air Force ranks, and things that prior leaders had done to really help build the morale and that culture in our organization. All right, so again, thank you so much for joining me today. If you have not visited kalehouserleadership.com and gotten your free gift from me, the 10 words that you need to start using as a leader, please do that. It is 100% free, no big deal. It costs you an email address and a name. Download it, review it, start implementing it. It will change your organization if you just start doing those 10 words. I guarantee it. And as always, shoot me an email, kale@kalehouserleadership.com. I'm happy to discuss these things, especially have a story or an experience about something that you have done that you saw in your organization to increase morale, or something that a previous leader of yours did that you really came across. So again, thank you so much. Have a fantastic day, no matter where you're at in the world. We'll talk to you later. Bye.